It does appear like a bomb and fire went off, if I may. And all of those buildings virtually are going to have to be rebuilt. It will be a new Lahaina.
Devastation and destruction. A closer look tonight at the fire that's destroyed hundreds of homes and historic buildings in Lahaina and has killed at least 53 people. Those families in mourning tonight. The police chief said they don't even know how many are still missing because of the power outage and communication challenges. And Governor Josh Green said after walking through Lahaina town today, he saw the largest natural disaster in Hawaii state history. The remains of Front Street, haunting and heartbreaking. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Many people are still desperately trying to get in touch with their loved ones in Lahaina, but phone lines and cell service are still down and firefighters are still working to contain the fire. Again, the county says at least 53 people are dead, and that number is expected to go way up. Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson said the message to residents is that the county is trying to identify those who've passed away so that families can have closure, and they're working to connect families with those in the emergency shelters. If you're having a hard time reaching a family member in Lahaina, a family assistance center will be open tomorrow from 10 in the morning till 8 at night at Kahului Community Center on Uhu Street. No one's being allowed into Lahaina town because of the hazardous conditions. It's still very dangerous. Cars on Honoapi'ilani Highway trying to go towards Lahaina are being turned around at Ma'alaya, but the highway is still open for people leaving West Maui. You can also leave West Maui through Waihe'e. Residents will be allowed back in at a later time once it's safe and once the search and recovery effort is complete. FEMA is flying in cadaver dogs to help.
It's going to take, Hiko, a lot of time. We're talking about more than just days. We're talking about weeks to months in some cases to get energy fully restored. In the interim, of course, we're going to do all that we can to get people generators. We're going to do all that we can to find other places for people to live. But it's not going to just be a couple days.
Governor issued a fourth emergency proclamation this afternoon, and President Biden today also signed a major disaster declaration which frees up federal funds. The governor said there is billions of dollars in damage, and you can see all the destruction here. The police chief said they need patience, prayers, and perseverance. It's one team, one fight.
We were trying to get visitors out because obviously their vacation has changed drastically. They're in a location that doesn't have any power, doesn't have any water, and they're sleeping there. But that's probably better than some of the choices other people had, which was to not have anywhere to go. But we tried to get them to the airport so they could get on flights, they could get to Honolulu and make a choice to stay there or fly home or go to another island. We're not closing Maui. We're closing the west side of Maui. So there are people that can go to Wailea, there are people that can go to Kihei, people that can stay with family in Wailuku. It's the folks that were in that are in West Maui that we were concerned about. Plus, we were hoping we could use those hotel rooms for our residents.
County officials this afternoon questioned during this press conference about what they did or didn't do to warn the people to evacuate. Mayor Bisson said visitors were asked to shelter in place at hotels in Ka'anapali because they were trying to get the emergency vehicles in and didn't want them to clog the highway.
You couldn't get out to go towards the Wailuku or go to the airport. That road was closed. There were 29 poles that fell on our roads. 29 of the power poles were down, and they were still energized. So you couldn't go out. So the only other way to go out, if you're familiar with Maui, is Kahakuloa, which is a one-lane highway in most places, which is why that was a bottleneck. So yes, people were asked to stay in their hotels and not leave. The residents were evacuated.
And the mayor said many of the residents evacuated on their own as the fast-moving fire came closer. The mayor said he didn't know if the emergency sirens went off.
Our firefighters are faced with multiple large wildfires beginning just after midnight Tuesday morning. These firefighters are compounded by extreme winds that we're all aware of. The first fire up in Upper Makua burned about 675 acres. By 11 o'clock in the morning, that's when the Lahaina fire began. It was fueled by gusts up to 60 miles an hour Some even reported up to 80 miles an hour, but we saw up to 60 miles an hour in the localized area. We redirected resources from many parts of the island to respond to the Lahaina area. And around noon, an additional fire started in Kula, and that spurred evacuations of Kulalani Circle, Kulamanu in that afternoon, and resources were also directed up there. Around 6 p.m., a fourth wildfire started that afternoon on Pulehu Road down in the Central Valley. That burned several hundred acres, and again, resources had to be directed, and decisions had to be made to triage what was most important at the time. So that fire was left.
And the fire chief also said none of those fires he just spoke about are fully contained yet in Lahaina or upcountry.